Get ready to experience the Beast Wars spin-off series you've never heard of. This is my entire coverage of IDW's Transformers Beast Wars series, Beast Wars The Gathering and Beast Wars The Ascending, that takes place during Season 3 of the Beast Wars Transformers show, and after that, leading into the sequel series, Beast Machines Transformers. It wasn't until after I covered this entire series that I now like to consider it an unofficial Season 4 of the show. I hope you all enjoy it. Now let's get into it. Welcome to the secret Beast Wars you never knew existed. What's up everyone, James here, and I bring you Beast Wars The Gathering. Make sure you hit that like button. So you can think of this series as a spin-off of Beast Wars Transformers that takes place during the animated series. Don't worry, if you've never watched Beast Wars Transformers, one of the greatest shows of all time, I got you. We'll get a bit of a summary of it here in a second. So this opens with the most badass looking and dangerous Transformer in this Beast Wars series, the Predacon MAGMATRON. He originated in Beast Wars Neo, the Japanese animated series that continued Beast Wars. He and his Predacons arrive on prehistoric Earth during the Beast Wars. Specifically, early on in the show's third season, he explains the Beast Wars to his Predacons. It's really a summary of seasons 1 and 2. So warning, spoilers if you've never seen the show. I'm also going to add to his explanation the foundation for everything between the Maximals and Predacons and CYBERTRON's current status. However, if you don't care to hear any of this and just want the story to be told, feel free to use the timestamps below to skip this part of the video. So as we know, 300 years after the end of the Great War between the Autobots and Decepticons, their descendants, the Maximals and Predacons, carry on the responsibility for upholding the terms of the Pax Cybertronia, the peace accord that ended the war. The governing body of Cybertron is the Maximal Imperium, led by the Maximal Elders. However, some Predacons aren't happy with the current status quo, and feel that the Tripedicus Council, the ruling body of the Predacon Alliance, is betraying their Decepticon heritage by adhering to the statutes imposed by the Pax Cybertronia, and are kowtowing to the Maximal government. We're going to learn in this series though that isn't necessarily true. They have secret plans. What began the Beast Wars was one Predacon upstart, Megatron, who had stolen the Golden Disc, a precious Transformer artifact, which he believed held the location of a vast store of energon that he would use to reignite the Great War. After stealing the Golden Disc, he escaped with his band of Predacons in a transwarp ship, which is basically a ship that can time travel using its transwarp drive. The only near enough ship to chase them was a Maximal exploration vessel led by Optimus Primal. They gave chase and went through a transwarp portal. Their battle ended with both ships crashing on prehistoric Earth, and thus the Beast Wars began. Before the Maximal ship, the Axelon, crash landed though, they ejected all their stasis pods into space and were left orbiting Earth. Now these stasis pods held protoforms, the first stage in a Transformer's life cycle. It's their most basic form where they are essentially a blank slate comprised of raw, free-flowing living metal. All the stasis pods held Maximal protoforms, except one, Protoform X. But we aren't going to get into that. Watch the show if you want to know more. Most of the battles between the Maximals and Predacons would be over these stasis pods. When one of them would fall out of orbit, they would race to its location and battle over it, both trying to add a Transformer to their ranks and outnumber the other side. Even though most were Maximal protoforms, the Predacons would use a shell program to turn them into Predacons. The war eventually kept escalating until the Maximals and Predacons pissed off this powerful alien species known as the Vok, who were using prehistoric Earth as a planet to conduct their experiments. They tried to use their Planet Buster to destroy Earth and the Transformers along with it, until the Transformers banded together and destroyed it. The significance of that was the destruction of the Planet Buster released a transwarp wavefront that traveled through space and time and eventually reached Cybertron, forcing the Tripedicus Council to act and try to end Megatron's rebellion. They sent covert Agent Ravage to apprehend Megatron, but he failed. That's what led to MAGMATRON and his Predacons arriving here. The Tripedicus Council ordered him to capture Megatron, but MAGMATRON has no intention of doing that. He plans to take the remaining stasis pods that descended to Earth and use them to create a Predacon army. He orders RAZORBEAST to set up the transmitter relay. You may be asking, why is RAZORBEAST working with the Predacons when he's usually a Maximal? Just keep watching. The reason is incredible. Magmatron sends out the rest of the Predacons to various stasis pods locations across Earth. At that moment, the Maximal Depth Charge, who is part of the original Beast Wars roster, appears. Drillbit announces this to Magmatron, but Magmatron reminds him that he and the team are chronically displaced, rendering them invisible to the rest of the Beast Warriors on Earth. So instead of using a transwarp ship to get here, they use this device called a chronal phase facilitator, a device that places a being or object in the chronal phase, displacing them from the native time stream and rendering them undetectable to those that reside in it. Now from here we go to a flashback on CYBERTRON that leads to all of this. We see Magmatron meeting with the Tripedicus Council. We learn through their conversation that the Council plans to overthrow the Maximal government. However, they would rather deal with Megatron first and continue to grow stronger before they make their move. Now Magmatron plays like he understands and agrees with them. Secretly though, like Megatron, he is fed up with the Council. He believes they are being too cautious and are taking too long to strike, that the opportunity to initiate their coup will be long gone if they wait any longer, and the longer they wait, the stronger the Maximals will get. So he decided to take matters into his own hands. So he has been secretly gathering his forces with plans to overthrow the Maximal Imperium, and chose to use this mission that the Council gave him to add more to his forces on Cybertron. Switching back to the present day, RAZORBEAST has set up the transmitter relay to scan and locate all the stasis pods scattered on Earth. Magmatron tells him to send the shell program as soon as they're all located. What Magmatron doesn't know is that RAZORBEAST is a double agent. We get a quick flashback and see one of the coolest looking Transformers of all time, Leo Convoy. Through RAZORBEAST's discussion with him, we learn he was the one who sent RAZORBEAST on this mission to infiltrate Magmatron's forces. The Maximal Imperium didn't sanction this mission, so Leo had told him that if he got caught, he would be disavowed. The reason why he sent him on this mission was because though Maximal and Predacons officially ceased hostilities and are one big happy family now, he knows that isn't the case. He's received reports that Magmatron is secretly recruiting and planning something big. During that conversation, RAZORBEAST asked, "What if it's something imminent and I can't report back to Cybertron in time?" Leo answered, "Then do what you can and start running." Back in the present, RAZORBEAST locates all the stasis pods, and once each one of Magmatron's Predacons reaches their locations, RAZORBEAST sends the Predacon shell program to all of them. Now, Transketo and Iguanus report to Magmatron that their protoforms have awakened as Predacons. Just when Magmatron begins to celebrate, that's when everything goes to hell. Because at that moment, Spitord reports over comms freaking out that his protoform has awakened as a Maximal. And it's one of my favorites, Polar Claw. And I love the way he is depicted here compared to his IDW depiction that we've covered. Instead of running from this massive beast, Spitord for some reason decides to take on an opponent that is literally 4, maybe 5 times his size. Polar Claw transforms into his beast mode and just crushes Spitord. It's so awesome. At that very moment, Magmatron figures out this is RAZORBEAST's doing. The double agent Maximal makes his move. He transforms and rams into Drillbit and begins to escape. But not before telling Magmatron he'll be back to finish the job. Magmatron orders the Predacons to capture him alive. This is where it gets even cooler. RAZORBEAST sends out a sonic call across the globe to all the Maximals he was able to awaken to head to his location. Transketo reports from his aerial view to Magmatron that they got a Maximal militia on their hands, and asks, "How should we respond?" Magmatron answers, "I say, unleash the Beast Wars!" This is why I say he is the most dangerous Transformer in this series. This guy is made up of not 1, not 2, but 3 different freaking beast modes. It's insane. He rallies his Predacon army, and we see he definitely has the numbers advantage in this Beast Wars. He mentions to his forces that although RAZORBEAST dealt his opening gambit a severe blow, and that they're fewer in number than he anticipated, he still believes his forces here, along with his troops on Cybertron, are still enough to topple the Maximal Imperium. This is pretty major, but he tells them they first must prevent RAZORBEAST from contacting Cybertron. From here we go to RAZORBEAST and the Maximals he was able to meet up with. He tells them he plans on salvaging a signal amplifier from Ravage's crashed transwarp cruiser. He explains that he had no opportunity to warn Maximal Command before they transwarped here because Magmatron kept his plan of building his army to himself until the very last moment. He had no choice but to go along with everything, but luckily he was able to throw a wrench in Magmatron's plans by putting in a low-yield code into the shell program he sent to the stasis pods. He sees that there are only 7 Maximals here, so he's left wondering where the rest are. He is unaware that some are being captured by the Predacons right now, and the others are far away making the journey to him. Now Magmatron is smart enough to deduce that Ravage's cruiser is where RAZORBEAST is heading to, so he divides into his beast modes and he and his forces split up to search for them. As the Maximals are searching for the cruiser, Baboon points out how they just met RAZORBEAST, and he is expecting them to immediately trust him right off the bat when he could be leading them into a trap. He even mentions how his sensors are picking him up as a Predacon. RAZORBEAST responds that his spark had to be changed on a submolecular level so he could infiltrate the Predacons. That he understands he is asking for a lot of trust, but they don't have time to become buddies. If they don't act now, every Maximal in Cybertron will pay the price. Baboon kind of begrudgingly agrees. Before they can find the cruiser though, the Predacons ambush them. Spitor attacks Ramulus, hitting him with an attack that incapacitates him and sends his body falling down the mountain. He is done. Spitor being here though doesn't make any sense whatsoever, because Polar Claw definitely killed him and he was on the other side of the world. Anyways, it gets worse for the Maximals. The next of all is Baboon. He gets trashed by Magmatron in his T-Rex mode, and the rest of his beast modes show up here. As that's going on, Optimus Minor, yeah, that's really his name, in another universe he is actually the son of Optimus Primal. As he's looking for the transwarp amplifier in the cruiser, Transketo appears with it already in his possession. He tells Optimus that he could have taken it and left, but he wants to have fun with him first, which is kinda creepy. Luckily for Optimus Minor, Snarl sneaks up behind Transketo and blasts him. Returning to RAZORBEAST, though it seems like he is holding his own against Magmatron, he's really just dodging and surviving. He is no match for this guy. He even fires a volley of cannons in Magmatron's face, and Magmatron is just like, "Are you finished?" He is just not on this guy's level. And neither are the other Maximals, because even Wolfang and Bone Crusher are getting smashed by Magmatron's other beast modes. However, we can't sleep on how intelligent RAZORBEAST is. Magmatron corners him, and RAZORBEAST plays like he is surrendering. Magmatron says, "You should know surrender is not an option." RAZORBEAST replies, "For once in your miserable existence, put up or shut up." He fires at the mountain above him, causing this huge landslide that topples Magmatron's T-Rex mode. What's interesting is that people could easily not notice this, but when Magmatron's T-Rex mode is damaged from the landslide, his other beast modes feel the pain, which stuns them. RAZORBEAST and the other Maximals end up all escaping. From here we go to 2 epilogues. The first one is with the Maximals. After they inspect the transwarp amplifier, they discover it's damaged, but RAZORBEAST mentions that they can fix it with the right parts and tools. When Bone Crusher says, "We're not in an age of technological advancement," RAZORBEAST replies, "You forgot, Bone Crusher. 3 million years ago, a piece of Cybertron crash landed on Earth. Everything we need can be found on the Ark." The second epilogue takes us to the Predacons. A couple of them talk amongst themselves about how Magmatron hasn't said anything. Suddenly, Magmatron appears, tossing the remains of Ravage they found. He says Ravage's body did not survive the crash, but his spark did. Perhaps this war needs a dash of Decepticon dogma. The end of Secret Beast Wars is here, and King Grimlock makes an appearance and takes on Magmatron. What's up everyone, James here, and make sure you hit that like button. If you haven't seen our first video of this series, I'll have a link to it at the end of this video. Also, I forgot to mention this in the last video, but this series was written by Simon Furman, one of the GOATs of Transformers comics. So this opens with Optimus Primal, Cheetor, and Rhinox. If you're wondering why Optimus Primal and Cheetor look so different from Rhinox, it's because they have transmetal forms. Initially, I wasn't going to explain what that is, but someone later in the story is going to gain a transmetal form. So warning, this will be slight spoilers for the Beast Wars show. You can use the timestamps below to skip this part of the video if you don't care. So Optimus, Cheetor, and many other Transformers had changed due to a quantum surge caused by the destruction of the Vox Planet Buster, which I mentioned in the last video. That surge mutated some of the Transformers' forms into transmetals. Now, transmetal was such an awesome change-up in the Beast Wars show, because though the new form they were given was primarily mechanical, it did keep many of the organic elements of their beast forms, but added a third mobility form, which was their beast modes with vehicular elements. Like Megatron became this jet-flying T-Rex rollerblader, and Optimus Primal became a sky-surfing gorilla. It was amazing. Now, Optimus Primal had gained his mighty Prime form because he merged his Spark with Optimus Prime's for a time. Even though eventually that was no longer the case, he was still able to keep this form. We see RAZORBEAST and the other Maximals sneak past them without being seen. Remember, Magmatron and all the Predacons that came with him, including RAZORBEAST playing double agent, and the protoform pods they reformatted, were all chronically displaced, basically taken out of the native time stream. That way his plans wouldn't affect space and time. Another thing to remember is that RAZORBEAST and the other Maximals have come to the Ark to find the parts necessary to fix the transwarp signal booster they took from Ravage's crashed ship so they can send a warning message to Cybertron about Magmatron's plans. As that's going on, we're going to meet yet another faction that appears in this secret Beast Wars. We go to a group of Predacons led by Transketo in the swamp, tracking down any stray Maximals. They immediately open fire when they spot what they think is a Maximal in an Owl Beast form. Suddenly, a Transformer in a Scorpion Beast mode leaps out of the water and strikes Retrax. Another one pops out of the water in the form of a Gator, and it rips apart Power Pinch. At the same time, Transketo confronts the Owl, who transforms into a freaking bear attacking him. He roars, "This region is ours. No Predacons, no Maximals, only mutants." Now, this group is awesome and unique. They call themselves the Mutants because they don't have a robot mode, but they do have two different beast modes. What sucks about their appearance here is we don't ever see this group again. Simon Furman teases them, and then they are never seen again. Now from here, we're going to see Ravage return to the Beast Wars. Magmatron and the Predacons find a blank protoform pod. Now, Drillbit asks Magmatron if he is sure they can't handle everything themselves. Magmatron answers they were already supposed to have returned to Cybertron by now. They don't have time to take out RAZORBEAST before he sends his warning message to Cybertron and capture Megatron. Now, the reason why Magmatron has chosen to fulfill his mission of capturing Megatron the Tripredacus Council set him on is because his original plan, as we know, was to return to Cybertron with an army of Predacons at his back that would join his forces that are already there in order for him to stage his coup and overthrow the Maximal Imperium. However, RAZORBEAST threw a wrench in those plans when he cut that army of Predacons by at least half when he sent his viral code that piggybacked on the Predacon shell program they sent to the protoform pods undisturbed on Earth, activating the Maximal protoforms and protecting them from the shell program. So Magmatron wants to offer Megatron up as a peace offering to the Council and continue to grow his forces until he's ready to stage his coup. Drillbit then brings up the possibility of Ravage not being trustworthy, since he is a Tripedacus agent. But Magmatron responds that Ravage only cares about the best individual to help him advance. Also, no one is more qualified to track down RAZORBEAST and the Maximals. Magmatron puts Ravage's spark into the protoform pod and says 2 parts Predacon, 1 part Decepticon, a survivor of the Great War. Such potent raw material shouldn't go to waste. Arise, Ravage! The Decepticon and Predacon hybrid is back in a transmetal beast form, and he looks badass. Returning to the Maximals, they successfully fixed the transwarp signal booster. However, they've used older parts to fix it, so RAZORBEAST mentions it'll work for a short time before it eventually burns out. At that moment, Snar comes out of his cloaking, scaring RAZORBEAST in the process, and informs him he has launched a sensor drone that's currently picking up Magmatron heading towards Megatron. And that's where we go to next. Megatron returning from a mission. He sends Rampage and Inferno ahead. When he is alone, Magmatron slips out of chronal displacement and strikes. But Megatron frees himself from his grasp, pointing out that the Council has sent another lackey to do their dirty work. He lands a blow on Magmatron and tells him he thought the Council would learn from Ravage failing his mission, which he didn't fail per se. He successfully captured Megatron, but just ended up joining him. Megatron gloats and says, "It takes more than one operative, be they an ex-Decepticon or decorated general, to stop my grand plans." Magmatron replies, "But whoever said I came alone?" At that moment, Drillbit and Iguanus emerge from chronal displacement and get the drop on Megatron, knocking him out. They attach a chronal phase armband on him in order to take him out of the native timeline. That way, the timeline isn't affected. As Magmatron plans to return to Cybertron with Megatron, he leaves the rest of his forces for Ravage to lead. Their goal will be to hunt down RAZORBEAST and wipe out his Maximals. Now, speaking of the Maximals, RAZORBEAST splits up the Maximals. Most of them will try to send a warning message back to Cybertron, while he and Optimus Minor will try to prevent, or at the very least, delay Magmatron from traveling back to Cybertron until the warning message reaches Cybertron. While en route, RAZORBEAST tells Optimus Minor he knows exactly where Magmatron's transportation device is located, which is called a transwarp shunt. He also tells him that he's been consistently sending out his gathering signal to the other Maximals across the globe, and is hoping there is someone in the vicinity of the device that can help them out. Once they reach Magmatron, RAZORBEAST realizes the transwarp shut is already activated. So he tells Minor they need to move fast, but they need a distraction. And oh boy, does a distraction come right at the nick of time. Drillbit reports to Magmatron that their perimeter sensors have been breached by something big, and a voice responds, "Got that right." Magmatron asks, "And you are?" The voice answers, "Me, Grimlock, King of Beasts." The king of the Dinobots, Grimlock, is finally in the Beast Wars. This is something the rebooted IDW Beast Wars wanted to do, but sadly, they never got to do it. Now, in true Grimlock fashion, he starts wrecking everyone. He tears apart Drillbit, and then does the same to Iguanus, except he freaking eats him. Like, straight up, chews him up, swallows him, it seems like. If you're ever curious about why Grimlock is so awesome, that's why. Magmatron, not shaken up at all by the massacre he just witnessed of his Predacons, threatens Grimlock. He says, "Normally, I would crush you and be done with it, but I have places to be. Withdraw now, and you will live." Grimlock is just like, "Withdraw? Man, I'm about to beat your ass." Magmatron transforms into his 3 beast modes, and Grimlock takes them all on. Now, while they're fighting, Optimus Minor steals Magmatron's chronophase armbands. The fight between Magmatron and Grimlock becomes even more intense. And even though he's outnumbered 3-1, Grimlock is holding strong. He's even frustrating Magmatron because he just refuses to go down. Eventually, though, sadly, Grimlock does fall. Man, I really wish Simon Furman had Grimlock transform and take on Magmatron. Also, Grimlock only lost because of the plot. I'm standing on that. Because something Simon Furman forgot about that he established in the earlier issues that we saw in the last video is when one of Magmatron's beast forms gets hurt, the rest of the beast forms also feel it and momentarily get stunned. That didn't happen at all in the fight with Grimlock, who did land blows on some of Magmatron's beast forms. Anyways, Magmatron gets notified by his transwarp shut that it's begun its countdown. He prepares to leave until RAZORBEAST shows up, saying, "After all we've been through, you don't have time to say goodbye?" Magmatron replies, smirking, "RAZORBEAST, for you, I'll make time." Meanwhile, Ravage and the other Predacons find the Maximals' lair, and they strike. At the same time, the Maximals begin to send their warning message to Cybertron, but Schnar informs them it's going to take some time for the message to get out. So that sucks for them, but it gets worse because the Predacons' attack causes a rock slide that threatens to bury the Maximals in their lair. Schnar orders them to run for it while he stays to ensure the message gets sent. Even though they escape from getting buried, waiting outside for them isn't much better. Ravage's entire Predacon force attacks them. There's no back and forth here. The Maximals are just doing their best to survive the onslaught. Just when they end up surrounded and are about to be picked off individually, the freaking most significant Maximal force ever seen arrives and is ready to kick some Predacon ass, son. Also, we see what I'm pretty sure is the biggest Maximal ever. His name is Torka, and he's a fuser, which is basically a transformer who is a combination of two different beasts. Torka is a mixture of a killer whale and an elephant, and he looks so cool. I love that he roars, "Maximals, break some heads!" Now the story doesn't cut away from here. We see this fight go down and it's wild. The Maximals and Predacons clash. The battlefield is filled with bodies being torn apart or blown up. Faces are getting smashed. It is pure chaos on the battlefield. It's the most amazing scene we get in this entire series. Returning to Magmatron and RAZORBEAST, their second fight here is a lot different when compared to their first fight in the last video, because RAZORBEAST came prepared. Using one of the Chrono Phase armbands that Optimus Miner stole, he phases himself in and out every time Magmatron attempts to land a blow on him. And every time he misses, RAZORBEAST responds with every bit of firepower he has, hitting Magmatron from multiple directions. While RAZORBEAST is keeping Magmatron distracted, Optimus Miner removes the Chrono Phase armband on the unconscious Megatron to phase him back into the native timeline. Magmatron tries to stop him, but when he's at the center of the transwarp shut, and just when the countdown is about to reach 1, RAZORBEAST says, "Sorry Magmatron, but you're out of time." He destroys the transwarp shut's controls, so instead of sending Magmatron back to Cybertron as initially programmed, with the controls destroyed at the last second, Magmatron is wiped from existence. Now you could argue, had Magmatron split into his beast forms, he would have had a better chance of landing a blow on RAZORBEAST, and this might have not happened to him, and I would definitely agree. Returning to the Maximals, they end up defeating Ravage and his Predacons. However, Ravage didn't enter the battle, he actually watched it from a distance and left when he saw his forces defeated. So he is still out there. Snarl ended up surviving the rock slide and informs the Maximals the warning message was successfully sent to Cybertron. The story then transitions to 2 weeks later, with RAZORBEAST and his Maximals building a new base. Prowl asks him what's up, and RAZORBEAST answers that the Beast Wars is running its course, referring to the main Beast Wars. That Megatron will do his best to wipe out Optimus Primal and the Maximals. Afterward, he will bring his madness back to Cybertron. He then says, "He was at my mercy. I could have ended him forever, Prowl, but I was taught to respect the timeline, not tamper with it. I was sorely tempted though." Prowl replies, "You did the right thing. It's not about what happens over there or then, but here and now. Like it or not, this is our Beast Wars. How we rise or fall will define us forever." That's the end of the Beast Wars, at least for now. The Heralds of Unicron invade the Beast Wars. Welcome to Transformers Beast Wars, The Ascending. What's up everyone, James here, and if you are new here, this is the sequel series to Beast Wars The Gathering. You'll find a playlist of our coverage to that series right here, below the like button, and at the end of this video. And make sure you hit that like button. So this story opens with Magmatron, who we assumed was wiped from existence when RAZORBEAST destroyed the transwarp shut, aka the time machine, while he was in it. However, instead of being wiped from time, Magmatron has become a chronal ghost. Just think of him as a time ghost. He is stuck in a temporal limbo, where he can access all of time, from the universe's origin to its catastrophic end, but he can affect nothing. In his inner monologue, we learn repeatedly he witnesses Cybertron's destruction. He sees a being that will bring about Unicron's return and his consumption of Cybertron. And who that is, we'll learn soon. Now, we don't know how long he's been here. It could be nanocycles, gigacycles, megacycles, or Vorn for all we know. But what's important is this experience has changed Magmatron. What I love about this is that Magmatron was the Transformer, the Predacon who sought to conquer Cybertron in the last series. But in this one, we'll see him try to be its protector, trying to prevent its end. From here we go to RAZORBEAST and the MAXIMALS. Through his conversation with Prowl and Wolfang, we learn it's been a decacycle since Snarl sent the distress message to Cybertron. For those of you who don't know, a decacycle is 30 days. RAZORBEAST mentions that he's pretty sure that the message didn't reach Cybertron, because Lio Convoy, aka Leo Prime, the coolest looking Transformer ever, and the pack would have been here by now. In the last series I pronounced his name Leo Convoy, it's Lio Convoy. Anyways, when it comes to the pack, they're an elite maximal military unit led by Lio Convoy. Think of the pack as basically the Beast Wars version of the Autobots Wreckers. They're so awesome, and we are going to see them in action in this series. Now, Wolfang reminds RAZORBEAST that they successfully stopped Magmatron and his plans. If they're destined to be stuck in the past, then so be it. RAZORBEAST tells him though that he feels that isn't their destiny. He can feel someone or thing waiting for him to act. Prowl points out to him that their work here in the past still isn't over. They have something that Ravage wants. We're going to learn what that is in a second. Now from here we go to my boy, Grimlock. He's patrolling the perimeter of the Maximal base. What's kind of a weird change-up is the artist Don Figueroa changed the appearance of his dino form. I prefer how he looked in the last series, because he just looked a lot more menacing and scary to me. Anyways, Grimlock comes across the Predacons, Retrax, and Manterror. Though they both freak out at the sight of him and Retrax runs away, this was all planned. They wanted to lure away and distract one of the strongest Maximals so they could spring their trap for the rest of the Maximals at their base. Retrax triggers the explosives they secretly planted around and in the tunnels of the Maximals base. The Predacons launch their attack, and every Predacon in Ravage's forces is here. Now RAZORBEAST quickly deduces something isn't right, because in the decacycle up until now, the Predacons have been attacking them with hit-and-run tactics, slowly trying to wear them down. But as RAZORBEAST points out to the Maximals, something's changed, because this seems to be an all-or-nothing attack. Now something cool happens here. As another wave of Predacons is charging toward the Maximals, Torka comes bursting from beneath the ground, and it's awesome. He is kicking Predacon ass. Remember, Torka made his appearance in the last series. He's definitely entered my top Beast Wars Transformers list. In no particular order, if you care, it's Optimus Primal, Lio Convoy, Dinobot, Scold, I freaking love Scold, Torka, Tigerhawk, and Magmatron. Let me know in the comments below your list of your favorite Beast Wars characters. As the battle rages on, inside the Maximals base, Ravage makes his move. He's thrown all of his Predacons at the Maximals so they would be distracted while he snuck in to steal the one thing they have that he wants, which is the Chronal Phase armbands. When he tries to grab them though, he sees it's a hologram. That's when RAZORBEAST shows up and says, "Did you honestly think we'd make it that easy? Can't have you interacting with Megatron and getting the time stream in even more of a tangle, can we?" Ravage gets super pissed, almost slashing through RAZORBEAST's chestplate, demanding to know where the Chronal armbands are. He ends up cornering him, seemingly having him dead to rights. But that's when RAZORBEAST puts it all together. The Predacons' sudden all-out attack tactic, Ravage desperate for the Chronal armbands, even Ravage hesitating to take him out until he knows where they are, when he could just kill him and search for them. He sees these are all signs Ravage is in a panic. He says, "You can't afford to wait any longer. They're leaving, aren't they? They found a way off this rock and you want to leave with them." This is where we're going to learn not only Ravage's plans, but also where this series takes place in the Beast Wars timeline. Because remember, the last series took place at the beginning of Season 3. Ravage replies, "Not quite. The Beast Wars are over. Optimus Primal and his crew won. They're now preparing to take Megatron back to Cybertron on a refitted Autobot shuttle. I intend to free Megatron, and then together we'll kill every last Maximal on this planet." So, basically, in that decacycle between this series and the last, the end of the Beast Wars took place. Now, RAZORBEAST has Snarl attack Ravage from behind, and they both successfully take him down. Meanwhile, Magmatron from his temporal limbo watches this all take place. And even though I mentioned that he's changed, he still has a slight grudge against RAZORBEAST, because in his inner monologue, he compliments how resourceful and capable RAZORBEAST is. However, he still would joyfully tear him apart if he could. He says, "However, here and now, in this altered state, he's perhaps my and Cybertron's last hope." Magmatron moves through time, returning to when the Maximals were sending the distress signal during the last big battle. Though Snarl did successfully send the signal carrying a message of Magmatron's plans, we learn it never reached Cybertron. Magmatron says in his inner monologue, "The transwarp signal is destined to degrade and ultimately lose cohesion entirely, never reaching its destination, unless I ensure it does." Using his temporal presence, Magmatron makes sure the signal reaches Cybertron this time. This is weird that this happens because earlier we learned that he can't affect nothing, but it seems in some circumstances he can. At Cybertron, Lyle Convoy receives the message that states, "Magmatron recruiting on Earth, an imminent main strike, Cybertron." And I love how Lyle Convoy is straight to business. He says, "Mach kick, gather the pack, and drill nuts, fire up the transwarp cruiser." Magmatron mentions that their urgent resolve gives him hope, but he wonders if it is too late, because elsewhere on Cybertron, in a place dedicated to death and dismay, Magmatron says, a tyrant contemplates his imminent ascension to demigodhood, unaware that he is a means to an end, a puppet dancing to another's tune. Angoma, Shakarak, Unicron, a trinity of chaos. We see the heralds of Unicron, the Blentrons, using Angoma energy, have brought about the rise of Shakarak, who will bring about the ascension of Unicron. Now, there are a few things I have to explain here because the story doesn't, unfortunately. It assumes you're already familiar with all this. First, the Blentrons. They first appeared in the sequel to the Japanese animated series Beast Wars 2, Beast Wars Neo. They're monstrous transformers that are all fusers, who are devoted to Unicron. Remember, a fuser is a transformer whose alternate mode is a fusion of two or more creatures. The Blentrons have beaten both Big Convoy and Magmatron with ease, so they're no joke. The main members of the Blentrons are Elforca, Drancron, and Ratarata. Second, Anglomont energy was a concept introduced in Beast Wars 2. Now, if you want a detailed history of the concept, I highly recommend checking out Chris McFeely's video, The Basics on Dark Energon. It's really informative. In general, Anglomont energy is an ancient, powerful, divine energy. It's the same energy that's within the matrix of leadership. The special mystical thing or supernatural thing about this energy is that it can be influenced by the spiritual alignment of its user, dividing the energy into good and evil variants. Both Primus and Unicron possess this energy. Primus's Anglomont energy is a purifying force of wisdom and life, whereas Unicron's is extremely chaotic and corruptive. Finally, I need to talk about Shakarak. Now, for you keen-eyed or very knowledgeable Transformer fans, you may notice or know he looks very similar to Rampage, because he originated as a BotCon exclusive that was a recolor of Beast Wars Rampage. Make no mistake though, they're two totally different characters. Shakarak first appeared in the 3H Comics story called Reaching the Omega Point, written by Simon Furman, where he was a lowly Predacon grunt called Hunter, who came upon Unicron's life force on Earth. Instead of being called Angoma energy, like the Japanese anime series did, Furman called his energy the Dark Essence. It transformed Hunter into Shakarak. After his transformation, he created his evil version of the Matrix of Leadership called the Matrix of Conquest, which was filled with the Dark Essence. He went on to conquer and enslave Cybertron along with half the galaxy. It literally took dozens of Transformers from various timelines and realities, Optimus Primal, Optimus Prime, Decepticon Megatron, Grimlock, just to name a few, and a covenant of 12 Transformers created by Primus himself to fight and defeat this guy. Now returning to the story, a disembodied Unicron speaks to the Blentrons, telling them a rogue element may threaten the Ascending. He says, find it, eliminate it, and kill anything that may know or suspect Unicron is soon to be reborn. They reply, we obey. Remember, Magmatron mentioned Shakarak doesn't know the Blentrons are using him to bring about Unicron's return, and this gets confirmed because Unicron says the vessel is not to be told. He then orders Alforca and Drancron to continue the Angoma energy propagation, and orders Tarada to travel to Earth in the era of the Beast Wars. Going back to the battle between the Maximals and Predacons, unfortunately for the Maximals, the Predacons have the upper hand, because they have an aerial advantage. However, my boy Grimlock finally makes it to the battlefield. He immediately starts taking out Predacons. He bites the head of Iguanus, and it's so awesome. Though the Maximals have heavy hitters like Torka and Grimlock on the battlefield, the Predacons still have the upper hand. In the Maximals base, Snarl informs Razorbeast of the whole battlefield situation. As they both rush to the battlefield, Ravage awakens. He grabs one of the Chrono armbands, and just when he's about to begin his plan of freeing Megatron, he is taken out of time by Magmatron into the Chrono space, the cracks between time. Magmatron explains to him that Razorbeast's intervention in destroying the transwarp shut has turned him into this being that's neither dead or alive. Initially, Ravage believes that Magmatron wants him to get revenge on Razorbeast for him, but Magmatron tells him he wants the opposite. He says, I want you to declare a truce. Cybertron's very future depends on it. From here, we're going to transition to what's going on Cybertron. The Maximal Elders, Prowl, Ironhide, and Silverbolt are discussing the situation. We learn through their discussion that their society is falling apart. Civil unrest and interfaction conflict are growing, eventually leading into a civil war. They theorize that something is agitating the populace. We're going to learn what that is. The Elders send some agents to Big Convoy to find out. That's where we go next, but he tells those agents to inform the council he's busy, and he's basically already ahead of them. What I love about Big Convoy is this guy is basically what Optimus Prime and Grimlock would be if they combined. He is known throughout the Maximal ranks as the one-man army. He's investigating the murder of a Transformer who was killed by a mob. Through his discussion with the Maximal agents, we learn that the Angoma is being used as a drug. The Transformer that was murdered was a junkie trying to get a fix. But when he opened the capsule holding the energy, it let out a siren call that drew in a mob that was a mixture of Predacons and Maximals corrupted by the energy that tore him limb from limb. As that's going on, the Blentrons are feeding Shakarak capsules of all the Angoma energy they've accumulated so far. He demands they bring him more. He says, I can feel the Angoma energy changing me, remaking me. I shall be a god among mortals. The Blentrons reply, our agents are searching all over the galaxy for more canisters of Angoma energy. You must have patience. In time, you will ascend. And when that happens, the entire universe shall tremble. Back on prehistoric Earth, after speaking to Magmatron, Ravage, phased out of time, walks through and watches the battle between the Maximals and Predacons. Suddenly, a transwarp cruiser arrives above the battlefield. Lio Convoy and the pack drop into the battlefield. Lio orders the pack to engage beast modes and says, "Show them it's a jungle out here." Lio's beast mode of a lion is so freaking awesome, and it gets even better. When one of the Predacons has their blaster trained on him, he just looks at him and says, "Not impressed, huh? Oh well, I can do traditional too." He pops out an array of blasters from his main and fires on the Predacons. Ravage phases back into time between Lio and RAZORBEAST. When they pull their blasters on him, he assures them that he comes in peace and brings a warning from MAGMATRON. He explains the whole MAGMATRON being trapped in a temporal limbo and him being able to access all of time where he saw the end of Cybertron. Ravage says whatever's going down, it involves Angulma and a big bad who calls himself Shakarak. If we go back to Cybertron now, without some way to protect ourselves, we'll be... Before Ravage can finish explaining, he's interrupted by Ratarata, who's arrived on the battlefield and says, "You'll be consumed." A fate that awaits all who currently infest Cybertron. That and worse. But you all die here. Whatever warnings you might have carried back will be consigned to oblivion. At that moment, Ratarata stabs RAZORBEAST with his stinger, filled with Angulma energy, and RAZORBEAST begins to mutate. The Maximals try to help him, but Ravage tells them it's too late. He says he's been infected. The RAZORBEAST you knew is gone. All that now remains is rage. RAZORBEAST has fallen. The age of chaos. The age of Shakarak is here. What's up everyone, James here, and we're returning to Beast Wars The Ascending. This is sadly the end of the Beast Wars spin-off series we've covered so far. If you didn't see the first video or the first series, the link to the playlist is right here and below the like button. And be sure to hit that like button. The kind of odd thing that's going to happen is this is going to connect to beast machines. You'll see what I mean by the end of the video. So this opens with Big Convoy and his team discovering a massive tower filled with Angulma energy. Remember, this Angulma energy is Unicrons, which is chaotic and corruptive energy being used to power Shakarak, but also used to corrupt the citizens, both Predacon and Maximal alike, and spread chaos throughout Cybertron. Big Convoy mentions that this tower looks to be a part of old Cybertron, and theorizes to his team that it seems to be the epicenter of everything bad going on. Now, this is the first connection to beast machines, because if you've seen the show, the Maximals, as they descended further into Cybertron, came across ancient ruins that Optimus Primal had said were what was left by the earlier Cybertronian civilizations. Shakarak, watching him through monitors, is ready to make his move. He says, "Too late for you, Big Convoy, and for Cybertron. This is the age of Shakarak." He decides to launch his attack on Cybertron. However, the Blentrons warn him it's too soon, and try to convince him to wait longer because the Angulma energy they've been feeding him hasn't stabilized within him yet. But Shakarak refuses to wait any longer. The Blentrons do express their frustration amongst themselves, because remember, to them, Shakarak is a means to an end. He is the vessel that will bring about Unicron's return, which he is unaware of. Now, Shakarak emerges out of the massive tower in his beast mode, and strikes Big Convoy and his team. He rips apart Tasmania Kid and tells Convoy he's next. Convoy responds by getting in his spider tank mode, which looks so badass, and says, "Whoever or whatever you are, we will never relent." Shakarak replies, "I don't want you to relent. I want you to die." He kills even more members of Convoy's team. Big Convoy fires his huge cannon. This huge blast does nothing to Shakarak. He says, "Cybertron is being remade in my image. When I ascend, it will be transmutated into an extension of my will." When Convoy replies, "You're utterly insane," Shockrack responds, "Not insane, a god in the making. You can go now." He kills Big Convoy right on the spot. Dunzo. He didn't stand a chance. Shockrack has annihilated the entire Maximal squad. This is major because Shockrack has essentially won right now. Magmatron witnesses all this from his temporal limbo. Remember, he is stuck here due to RAZORBEAST destroying the transwarp shut while it was activating, and he was in it at the end of Beast Wars The Gathering. So he's been stuck as a time ghost ever since, trying to prevent Cybertron's end. He says in his inner monologue, "I have been here before, a mute witness to the rise of Shockrack and Cybertron's descent into Angomar-fueled chaos. Those he does not account for destroy each other in a mad frenzy of unnatural savagery, and yet all this is merely a prelude to the rebirth of a far greater evil, unless what is done can be undone." As that's going on, let's return to where the last video left off, in the era of the Beast Wars, with RAZORBEAST having been infected by Ratarata with Angomar energy. He has become a mindless beast, fully corrupted and fueled by pure chaos. He even has grown too, maybe like 3 times his original size, and is attacking his Maximal brothers. The Maximals are trying to talk some sense into him, but Ravage is telling them that it's a waste of time. He's gone. Lyle Convoy and the pack are confused by what's happened to RAZORBEAST, because they're unaware of everything that's transpired on Cybertron. Really, everyone here is unaware except Ravage, thanks to Magmatron informing him of everything. Now, there is a funny character moment that happens. As the Predacons are battling Ratarata, Transketo says to Injector, "Is it me, or does he look familiar?" This is funny because Ratarata is a redeco of Injector. For those of you not familiar with the concept, a redeco or recolor is a toy made from the same parts as a previously released toy, but with different colors or paint. Injector is just like, "Nah, it must be your imagination." Actually, I forgot to mention that in the last video, all the Blentrons are redecos. Elforca is a redeco of Torca, and Drancron is a redeco of Sky Shadow. Ravage confronts Lyle Convoy, and here's the interesting thing about this interaction. When he addresses him, he doesn't know who he is. He just assumes he's the guy in charge. This could show how the pack unit is the Maximal Imperium's best kept secret, because if anyone should know they exist, it would be Ravage. After all, he was a covert agent of the Predacon secret police. He tells Lyle Convoy that this whole battle isn't where the real fight is. They need to head to Cybertron as fast as possible. Now, despite everything Ravage had explained in the last video about Magmatron and Shockrack, Lyle Convoy still doesn't trust him. When Lyle asks why he should trust anything he's saying is true, Ravage answers, "You don't. And in fact, I've made a career of lying. But if you know anything about me, you'll know I look out for number one. So if I'm going these lengths to try to convince you, that should tell you how bad the situation is." Lyle Convoy ends up believing Ravage, but makes it clear before they even talk about leaving to Cybertron, he and the Maximals will deal with RAZORBEAST, while Ravage and the Predacons deal with Ratarata. It literally takes all the Maximals dogpiling on RAZORBEAST to hold him down. That's how strong the Angomar energy has made him. All the Predacons manage to take down Ratarata. Lyle Convoy desperately tries to talk to RAZORBEAST, seeing if he can get him to regain his senses. He says, "I want you to know I'm proud of you. You took on a dangerous mission and came through, maybe even saved us all. But it's not over yet. You have to be stronger than ever before. If Ravage is right, then we're facing annihilation. As a race, we stand or fall today. And if we're to triumph, I need the best at my side. We're the pack, RAZORBEAST. We leave no one behind. Come join us for one last hurrah." This heartfelt speech helps RAZORBEAST overcome the corruption. But he tells Lio he doesn't know how long he can hold on. He describes the corruption of the Angoma energy as a white heat in his mind, wanting him to tear and shred everything. Ravage interrupts, telling them that they all need to go now. As they're prepping the transwarp cruiser, Lio confronts Ratarata, who's been neutralized thanks to Transketo injecting him with his entire reserve of narcovirus. He asks, "Who are you, and who sent you?" Ratarata answers, "If you don't know, you don't merit being told, but I am one of many, as you will soon learn." As if on cue, that's when Drancron and Alforca, fully powered by Angoma energy, come dropping in and lay into the Maximals and Predacons. Lio orders everyone to protect the ship, because if that goes, then they're permanently stuck here. The situation initially seems to get even worse for them, because RAZORBEAST wrenched himself free from his restraints and is charging towards them. But he's not aiming for his allies. He rams right into Alforca, while yelling at everyone to go, that he's going to hold them as long as he can. He's giving them a chance, which Lio Convoy is not trying to waste. He says, "You heard him, move." He's given us a chance, and I won't see it go to waste. RAZORBEAST, I salute you. Farewell. After they transwarp, we learn through Lio and Ravage's discussion that Ravage took a sample of Ratarata's Angoma venom in order to retro-distill an immunizing agent, but the problem is none of them are scientists. However, Lio reveals he knows one, and one that will be happy to do it for the right price. Now they transwarp to the exact moment Shockarak emerged from the tower and launched his attack and ripped apart Tasmania Kid. Both Big Convoy and Shockarak notice their ship, and Shockarak immediately fires at it, causing the cruisers to crash. Suddenly, tears in space and time appear in the sky above. The Blentrons were not the only heralds of Shockarak. What arrives through these tears are more of his heralds. He says, "They come, my heralds." They arrive with capsules filled with Angoma energy that will ensure Shockarak's ascension to godhood. Shockarak's heralds say, "Let the ascension begin." Now you would think Shockarak's heralds brought these capsules to feed him more energy, but that isn't the case. Shockarak orders them to distribute the capsules to the people of CYBERTRON in order to increase the civil unrest, thus creating more chaos and madness. Shockarak plans on taking the energy from all that chaos and using it to power and awaken the anti-matrix within him. When that happens, CYBERTRON will be remade in his image. Now, out of nowhere, a shuttle drops in. Big Convoy investigates it and discovers it's piloted by a bot that goes by the name Bump. He turns out to be the scientist Lio Convoy spoke about earlier that he contacted. Big Convoy's team and Bump go through the Pax crash cruiser, who survived the crash. Now, Ravage and Lio Convoy explain the whole situation of how Shockarak is just a conduit for Unicron to be reborn, and that's why they need to stop his ascension or die trying. Ravage leaves to speak to Magmatron, and Lio hands Bump the sample of Angoma energy and orders him to create a retrovirus for all of CYBERTRON. When Ravage visits Magmatron, he asks him what's the plan. He managed to get everyone on CYBERTRON here. Magmatron initially answers to just fight and die, which goes to show Magmatron didn't really thoroughly plan out how to defeat Shockarak. However, after saying this to Ravage, he ponders for a moment and tells Ravage to bring Shockarak to him. He's going for a Hail Mary play here, since everyone but Shockarak knows that he is being used and will be sacrificed to bring about Unicron. He intends to reveal everything to him. Now, what Magmatron says next is another example of how the old ruthless Magmatron is still within him. He tells Ravage to get a chronal phase facilitator attached to Shockarak, but that whoever is the one to do it is most likely going to get killed. So he says, find a suitable maximal for the job. Now Ravage, a bit out of character here, asks how RAZORBEAST is doing on Earth. MAGMATRON answers, badly. That's where we go next, with RAZORBEAST by himself taking on all the Blentrons. Even Ratarata, who's free from his restraints, and Transgido's virus. Surprisingly, even though they're also powered by Angoma energy, RAZORBEAST is holding his own. Now, some of the Maximals and Predacons that didn't go with Lyle Convoy and Ravage are just watching this fight go down. They don't outright say this, but the only logical explanation as to why they didn't leave with them is because they're not in fighting shape, which is why some of them are hesitant to join the fight. However, when they realize the Blentrons will be coming for them next, they rally and charge the battlefield. While the Blentrons are distracted, Optimus Minor checks in on RAZORBEAST, who tells him that he's slipping away, that soon the Angoma infection will overwhelm him forever. He makes Optimus Minor promise that when that happens, to basically kill him. Optimus Minor, riding RAZORBEAST, and all the Maximals and Predacons take the fight to the Blentrons. Returning to Cybertron, Ravage has told the Maximals Magmatron's plan. They establish their attack plan. The majority of the Maximals and Predacons will be drawing Shockarak's attention, while Snarl and Prowl will try to attach the chronal phase facilitator onto him. Ravage will be lying in wait for Shockarak's heralds when they try to reinforce him. Shockarak begins to absorb all the chaos and negative energy across Cybertron, beginning his ascension into godhood. He says, I who was once less than nothing, beneath the notice of friend and foe, shall scribe my name across this world and then have my omnipresence writ in the stars. The problem with this speech is that you wouldn't know that Shockarak was a lowly Predacon unless you read the Beast Wars story I mentioned in the last video, Reaching the Omega Point, where he debuted. We should have gotten his backstory in some capacity in this series. It's yet another example of the story assuming we as the reader know the established history of everything. So that's a big reason why I tried my best to explain everything to you all in the last video. Now, all the Maximals and Predacons launch their attack, and all of their combined firepower doesn't even phase Shockarak at all. When he responds with his own firepower, bodies start dropping left and right. He also calls on his heralds to return to him. Even though Maximals are literally dying around him, I love how unserious Grimlock is. He has a couple of Maximals die around him and he just says, "This reminds me of the good old days." Meanwhile on Earth, the Maximals and Predacons gain the upper hand on the Blentrons and eventually defeat them. But the fight isn't over yet for them, because RAZORBEAST has fully lost control. Optimus Minor, still on top of him, pleads for him to not make him do it. Though we don't see it, Optimus Minor is sadly forced to kill RAZORBEAST. Back on Cybertron, Shockarak's heralds have joined the battle. Prowl drops Snarl right on top of Shockarak's position, and he successfully attaches the chronal phase facilitator onto him and transports him to Magmatron's temporal limbo. When Shockarak's heralds are left confused by his disappearance, Ravage makes his move. He throws a grenade in between them and they get blasted back. Now Magmatron tells Shockarak that this is his world that he's in full control of, and that theoretically he could leave him here for an eternity, but eventually his master would find him and free him. Of course, Shockarak, not knowing he's been being played the whole time, responds that he serves no one. That's when Magmatron shows him his future, where he is being consumed by the Angoma energy, because it's so powerful that no mortal shell could bear it all. He then shows him that his true destiny is to be sacrificed, and that his death leads to Unicron being reborn. He offers him the choice to embrace the destiny laid before him, or to rage against it. Initially, Shockarak refuses to believe it and calls it an illusion, but ultimately, he accepts that Magmatron is telling him the truth. The Blentrons were using him the entire time. He says, "I see it all now. The promises, the lies, the manipulation. You used me. I was nothing after all." He rips out the anti-matrix from his chest, killing himself and destroying the matrix at the same time. This unleashes a time lash across the universe. Now, we don't see Shokarak's death for some reason. We learn all this through Magmatron, who suddenly is out of his temporal limbo, back in time, and explains this to Ravage and the Maximals. He also mentions that the surviving heralds fled. It's all honestly a little anticlimactic. This is why this series just needed an extra issue explaining Shokarak's origin and him being recruited and manipulated by the Blentrons. Lyle Convoy asks Magmatron if he knows what happened on Earth. Magmatron answers, "A victory, but a costly one. If you're planning on any monuments, I can think of no one more deserving than RAZORBEAST." That's when we see RAZORBEAST's body and Optimus Minor and the Maximals on Earth mourning him. From here we go to a quick epilogue where Bump delivers the first batch of the anti-Engelma retrovirus. Big Convoy and Lyle Convoy discuss having a lot more work to do because there's still civil unrest, they need to cure those still infected with the Engelma energy, and they have a lot of rebuilding to do on Cybertron because of the damage from their battle with Shokarak, his heralds, and the damage done by the infected citizens all across the planet. Big Convoy says, "I suppose we can hope no new threat rears its head before we are ready." Unfortunately for the Maximals on Cybertron, Megatron has arrived. Remember, in the last video, the last we heard about him was that Optimus Primal and the Maximals won the Beast Wars, imprisoned him, and were on their way back to Cybertron. Now, we don't learn what happened to them, but because Megatron arrives at the end of the story, it implies that Cybertron's current weakened state is how Megatron was able to easily conquer it, and why, at the start of the Beast Machines show, we discover he rules the planet. A lot of questions go unanswered, unfortunately, like which Maximals and Predacons survived the battle on Cybertron and on Earth, if the surviving Maximals and Predacons on Earth were ever rescued at some point, where did the Heralds flee to? It's kind of a cliffhanger-ish ending to the entire series. I really wish we got another series. Well, that's the end of Beast Wars: The Ascending. Comment below your thoughts. I'm curious to learn about how you all felt about the last minute connection to Beast Machines. Also, how you felt about the series as a whole. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you want more Beast Wars content, check out IDW's reboot of the series right here. Other than that, have an awesome day, and always remember every day to go beyond.